Emma Collins was only 22, but life had already been tough for her. Every day she worked 2 jobs just to keep going. During the day, she lifted heavy boxes at a warehouse, making her back sore. At night, she cleaned floors and bathrooms in an office building. She barely had time to rest before starting it all over again. Emma didn't complain, though. She was doing this for her dad. He had raised her alone after her mom left when Emma was a little girl. Now, her dad was very sick and hospital bills were piling up. Leukemia, that word filled her with dread. Emma felt helpless as she watched him get weaker each day, knowing that no matter how hard she worked, it was never enough. One cold night, Emma was waiting at the bus stop, barely able to stay awake. When the bus finally arrived, she climbed on and found a rare empty seat. Relieved, she sat down, leaning her head against the window, wishing she could just catch a break. As the bus went on, an elderly man slowly shuffled in, looking tired and frail. He held onto the rail, trying to keep his balance, but no one seemed to notice him or offer him a seat. Emma couldn't ignore it. She knew what it was like to feel invisible, to be overlooked. Without thinking, she stood up and offered her seat. "You can take my seat, sir," she said kindly. The man looked surprised, then gave a soft smile and sat down. "Thank you, young lady," he whispered. Emma stood for the rest of the ride, holding on to the railing. Even though she was exhausted, she felt good for helping him. When she got off the bus, the old man stopped her and slipped a small piece of paper into her pocket. "Take this," he said, smiling mysteriously. Confused, Emma unfolded the paper once she was off the bus. On it was an address, 23 Cedar Lane, and a sequence of numbers, 1965. Emma didn't know what it meant, but something told her she should find out. The next day, curiosity got the best of her. On her day off, she went to the address. As she rode the bus to Cedar Lane, she noticed the area getting nicer. Big houses, well-kept lawns, and wide, quiet streets. When she arrived, she found herself in front of a large house. She checked the paper again, feeling unsure. This couldn't be the place, but she had come this far, so she went up to the gate. On the side was a keypad, so she entered the code from the note, 1965. To her surprise, the gate opened. Emma walked up the long driveway and hesitated at the door, which was slightly open. Taking a deep breath, she stepped inside. The house was beautiful, with high ceilings, polished floors, and fancy lights. She felt out of place, wondering why she'd been led here. Then she saw him, the elderly man from the bus, sitting by the fireplace with a warm smile. "I knew you'd come," he said. Emma stood by the doorway, unsure. "Why did you give me that note?" The man, whose name was George, invited her to sit. "I've lived in this big house for years, but I have no family left, and I've learned that all the money and comfort in the world mean nothing if you don't share kindness with others." Emma looked confused. "What does that have to do with me?" George smiled. "When you offered me your seat, you showed kindness to a stranger without expecting anything back. That's rare. That's why I'm giving you this house." Emma was shocked. "What? Why would you give me your house?" "Because you deserve it," he said softly. "I want to give you a second chance, a chance to make life better for yourself and your father." Emma stared at him, unable to believe what she was hearing. Her life had been a struggle of endless hard work, pain, and sacrifice. And now this man, someone she'd met just once, was offering her a way out, a chance to help her father, and a path to a better life. As she looked around, she noticed a framed picture on the shelf. It showed a younger George standing with a woman who looked strangely familiar. Her heart skipped a beat. It was her mother. "That's my mother, isn't it?" she asked in a hushed voice. George's face softened with sadness. "Yes, she was my wife." Emma's world spun. Her mother, who had left her and her father to struggle, had lived in this grand house with another family. Anger and sadness filled her. "Why didn't she come back for us?" Emma asked, her voice shaking. George looked down. "She made mistakes, Emma. Leaving you and your father was her biggest regret. Before she died, she asked me to find you and make things right." Emma was torn. She'd suffered so much because of her mother's choices. She didn't want this house or the money. It couldn't erase the years of hardship. "I'm not asking you to forgive her," George said gently. "I just want to give you the life she couldn't." After a long silence, Emma spoke. "I need some time to think." George nodded. "Take all the time you need." Back at her small apartment, Emma sat on the edge of her bed, staring at the note and key in her hand. She visited her father in the hospital the next day. His condition was getting worse, and the doctors recommended more treatments that Emma couldn't afford. Holding her father's frail hand, she realized she couldn't let her pride stop her from helping him. She couldn't change the past, but she could change their future. The money wouldn't heal the wounds, but it could bring a new start. 2 weeks later, Emma returned to George's house, ready to accept his offer. She wasn't doing it for her mother or even for herself. She was doing it for her father, to give him the care he deserved. As she walked through the gates, she felt a sense of hope, knowing this was the start of a new chapter, one of forgiveness, possibility, and a chance to build a better life. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.